So, hello everyone, and very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to this eighth session of the series of the Responsible Artificial Intelligence course. And today we have with us Dr. Bhushan Garware. It is his third talk, and he's going to talk about secure AI, obstructing attacks on AI systems. So, I really, hope that you will all enjoy this particular talk and will be taking a lot of inputs from it. So over to you, Dr. Bhushan.
Thank you, Prachi. Hello and good morning, everyone. Nice to see you back on my this third talk on secured AI. As we know, this course started to cover some of the pillars of responsible AI, and this is the eighth lecture of this series. And hope everyone remembers that this whole course has started uh, with an assumption saying that uh, you are ready with your AIML model. You are happy. You have followed all standard procedures of training AIML model. You got a model which is very accurate, and this is now the stage to actually take and deploy this model. So this whole lecture series is dedicated. What after you got an accuracy correct, right? So then we thought about interpretability and explanations of the model. We talked about fairness, privacy, and today I'm going to cover an aspect of security of your AIML model. So imagine you are thinking to deploy the model, then how somebody can attack your AIML models and how can you prevent them. So we will start this session with showing you some of the attacks. Then I'll teach you how to attack somebody else's system. And obviously, to conclude this session on a good note, we will be talking about some of the defenses that you can think about for deploying your models. So before we get started, the first question to your mind is like, do I really need to worry about attacks on my AIML systems? Let me show you some of the demos. Um, all the views, thoughts, opinions expressed in presentation belong solely to the presenter and not necessary to the presenter's employer, organization, committee, or group of individuals. Have a look at this particular website. So I have given links into this. So your AI model might be telling you that this is not a cat. Now, a small kid can also identify that this is a cat, right? Now, if you visit this website, there are some very interesting things. So I'm selecting this image as a cat, and there are ways in which, so here is a representation where you are seeing that it's an original image and it's a modified image. So I have not done any attack on this particular image, and you can see that this is a Siamese cat, and your algorithm is 92% accurate saying that, yeah, this is a cat, right? Now I can choose some of those attacks, and there are different ways like projected gradient descent. This is an attack, and let's say the strength of attack is high for me. Now look at this, the same image for a human individual. So there is a nice visualization. Here is an original image, and this is an image on which I have made some changes. So we call it as an attack on your input. Now for a human being, can you see anything, any hint of the basketball here? Not really, right? So this image looks exactly similar to the cat that we have seen, but you can see that your model, which was calling it as a cat with 92% confidence, is now calling this image as a basketball, right? And this is how this is one of the attack on your AI system, and you will not be even aware. And we'll discuss that what could be the bad consequences of deploying AIML system which are not robust to this kind of an attacks, right? And you can play with another image also. There are some very beautiful images. For example, if you take this and there are no attacks, your neural network will call it as a car will, which is like a 97% confidence. Now if I have some attack on the system, look at this. This is an original image, and let me show you the modified image. There is hardly any difference for human eyes, right? To call it as original and modified. But now your system is 100% confident, and it is, before it is calling it as a carvel, and now it call it as a violin, right? Okay, let me show you some other examples. So the attack that you are seeing right now, you have no control what your system will call it, right? What the purpose of the attacker is just to change the output of the network, right? But there are something like this. So let me show you another demo. Here you can choose and you can upload your image, and you can actually create an attack, and your system will start saying it's something else that you want. Okay, so this kind of an attacks are called as a targeted attacks. So here, this is very nice demo. You can follow that link. You can select the model. Let's say I'm taking an ImageNet model, and I'm taking this image of a dog. And if you pass this image to your neural network, it is taking time because this actually runs in the back. You'll see that the inference is being taken and what your neural networks tells about it. Okay, so it's predicting that English Springer with a probability of 90%, and this is a breed of a dog. And you know, the accuracy is pretty good, and this is a correct prediction. Now, the beauty is that you can actually create an attack, and you can decide what your neural network should call it. Okay, so you can see that, let me turn this image of a dog into something like this, that my network should start calling it as an hot dog or something else. Okay, and these are some different attacks. So I'm choosing an attack, and we'll go deep into it, like how we can create these attacks or something. Now let me generate this image. It will take some time to generate this. Now this kind of an attack is called as a targeted attack. Okay, so initially when we saw the previous demo, we don't know what the network will call it. It turned out to be a carvel. Yeah, see this. Now this is an attacked image. Now this is an original image, and this is attacked image, and you can figure out, for human being, there is nothing to call it as a hot dog, right? So you will not even realize that this image is compromised. Somebody has attacked on your image. Now the prediction of this image with typical image recognition is a hot dog, right? And with a probability. So you completely fooled your neural network. And the point that I'm trying to make is, you can have a targeted attack on your systems, and you can actually manipulate your classifier by saying that no matter what image I'm giving, you should call it as a hot dog, or you should call something like. So now you can see that there is a minute difference between two, but for human beings, it's still a dog, right? But a network is calling it as a hot dog now. Okay, and the consequences of these kind of an attacks could be very serious. So let me show you another type of an attack that people do. These called as an adversarial patch. And this is very interesting demo that you can see on the YouTube. And this looks like this, and then I'll explain you. Okay. See this is a typical classifier. This is a banana. Okay, and your classifier is calling it as a banana as well, right? Now what is done is some patch is kept on this image. Look at this. Now this is an image of a toaster. This is an image of a toaster, and you can actually put that image of a toaster here, but there is some contribution of a toaster is in the classification output, but majority wise it is still calling it as an banana, right? So this is a real image of a toaster. However, you can create some adversarial patches, something like this. Now this is a patch which is an intelligently designed adversarial patch, just in order to fool your neural network. Now, no matter what is there in this image, if this particular portion is kept, it will start calling it as a toaster. So this is an adversarial patch, targeted adversarial patch created in order to fool your neural network. If you keep this patch here, no matter what is there in the background, your classifier will start calling it as a toaster. And this is very risky. I'll just give you a couple of minutes to think over it, why this is so risky. Because if you create some patches like this, then you can fool your neural network. Let me show you the next video, and that will tell you why this is so risky. So what these researchers have come up with, they have come up with a structure like this. And if you have that patch on your body, typical object recognition systems will not be able to find you in an image. Now you can extrapolate this to some of the critical security application where you think that there are CCTV cameras and everything is being monitored and it's an AI powered computer surveillance system, but people can come up with attack something like this. So if this patch is present on your body, see this person, your YOLO object detector is very rightly calling that, hey, here is a person in an image, but because of presence of this, you are completely fooling a network. And the moment this person turns a little bit, you will see this image. See this? This person is not getting recognized as a person in object detector systems because of this patch. And then let's see what happens. The moment he turns that patch out, he's getting detected. Look at this. So that's the beauty of this attack. See this? And this is very dangerous. You can hide from surveillance cameras by having these. So there are some news that somebody created a T-shirt, and on that T-shirt this kind of an patch was there, and because that patch was there, that person was not getting detected into the CCTV. You can see that the moment that patch is passed to the another person, that person is not getting detected. Now, let's come back to our presentation. So hope you like that, the people can hack your systems or typical looking computer vision systems. And that's why the whole overall point of this lecture series is how can you deploy a responsible system? So you have an accuracy, but you now need to take care of the security aspects of your models, right? So look at this. So this is a goggle, and people have created an hack that whoever is wearing this kind of a goggle, your face recognition systems will start calling that person as a Mia Djokovic, right? And here is a citation of this paper. And I think you can figure out that, how risky it is. Like if somebody, someone wants to hide himself or herself from face recognition systems, what you have to do is you can wear this kind of a goggles and your systems will start calling it as a Mia Djokovic. And you can create some targeted attack, not always like a Mia Djokovic, but you can have something else. And this is so risky, right? This is so risky. Like somebody else is doing crime, but because those people are wearing this kind of glasses, you can fool system that no, I was not there. Look at the recognition system, somebody else was there, right? So these all are the different attacks on your AIML systems. And people have proven that everybody is trying to develop some driverless cars and all that fancy stuff, but driverless cars, they need to identify the traffic signals and traffic boards. And what if people attach some kind of patches on these traffic boards? So this stop sign, by adding some patches like this, your neural network starts saying that this is 45 kilometers per hour. So imagine what could be the disaster. Your driverless car supposed to stop at this moment, but somebody actually attacked on those boards. And the beauty of all these attacks is, for normal human beings, you don't feel that this is being attacked. You don't even recognize that there is an attack. But hacker can put such interesting patterns on those image, and they can fool your neural networks. And that's why the security of your AIML model is of prime importance. Now, all the examples I have seen so far, they are for vision models, right? Because they are very appealing and you find it very interesting, because in order to cross verify as a human being, you are seeing those images by naked eyes, right? But those attacks are not limited to imaging models. Okay, the attacks can be on uh, voice recognition models. Attacks can be on NLP models also, and there is a risk, so there is a story that was published on New York Times. This is an Alexa or Srini or some kind of a system that you have, and you can send secret audience instructions to your smart speakers. Now people are integrating Alexa and those kind of a smart devices to all of the system. Like you want, like, hey Alexa, transfer my money to blah blah blah, right? So once you connect uh, uh, your personal assistant with financial and other things, people can generate secret signals. You imagine there could be an attack saying that you got a WhatsApp message, and when you printed, there was some sound, and that sound could be weird to you for your ears, and if, hey, there was some noise, but that noise could be actually a signal to your personal assistant, and they can hack, they can borrow money from, they can steal money from your account, right? And people have shown that how that can mislead your smart devices as well, right? So these kind of an attacks are everywhere. So let's come to the point. If we all agree that yes, there are attacks, then this is the point to study those attacks in a proper way, in a have some understanding of how people are doing attacks. So in terms of AI, now we have seen a lot of other cybersecurity and other kind of secure system, but this whole discussion is restricted only on uh, you know uh, attacks on your AI systems, right? So whenever we discuss that, the major 3 points will come into our discussion. Like, one, who will attack your AI systems? Why would they attack on your AI systems? And how they will attack the systems, right? So today this discussion will cover all the 3 points, like who will attack, why would they attack, and very important is how they attack. The moment you understand that how they are attacking your system, then we will discuss at the end, like what are the some possible defenses that we can have to prevent these kind of attacks on your systems. So who can attack? Researchers can attack in order to see what are the vulnerabilities. There could be some white hat attacks. These are good for you to understand because their intentions are good, and they want to test the vulnerability of your models, that whether it's good or not and how we can make it sure. There could be hacktivists, and very bad is there could be black hat attacks where their intentions are not so noble. Okay, then the next question is why somebody will attack. So researchers and white hat guys, they will attack your system in order to check the how CIA model for information security is applicable for your systems. So let me discuss that. What is the CIA model in terms of machine learning, right? So CIA model for security typically talks about confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the system, right? So let's discuss in terms of AI and ML perspective how those points are applicable. So when you say confidentiality, so confidentiality is you must not leak the training data used to train your model. So you're saying that I'm maintaining a complete confidentiality while training this model. It is very important for you that you should not leak the training data. And we will see after sometimes there are attacks which are dedicatedly created in order to understand what are the what are the which people were involved in the study and what are their parameters, right? So remember that if you are leaking out what was your training data, your system is not secure. Okay, the confidentiality has to be maintained. The second factor is integrity. Should not be possible to alter the prediction. So when you say this is integrity, my model, when you say that it is following the principle of integrity, means nobody should be able to alter the prediction of your models. And you will see that I have shown you many examples like how you are changing the output, outcomes of this model. And the last is availability. Force machine learning system to go into a fail-safe mode. Availability, like people will query your system like anything. It will change your classification boundary, and eventually your system stops responding. You don't want that, right? So confidentiality, integrity, and availability, these are the three factors that you should consider when you say that a CIA model of security. Very important. You should not leak your training data. Nobody should uh, alter your predictions, and it should always in a fail-safe mode. So why they will attack you? So very simple reason is just for a fun. We just see, hey, your model was calling this and now it is calling that. Second, a serious researchers, because many people who are developing their own defenses, the first step to create a new defense is to crack the existing system, right? So researchers can break your AIML models, and then they propose their own defense mechanism. And this is a cat and mouse game. Somebody else will crack their defense and they will propose their own defense afterwards. To make a statement, very bad is, financial reward or cyberware. These are the things why people will attack your systems. Now let's come to a very crucial part, is how somebody will attack your systems. So attack on your AI system can happen at two places. So if we consider the time aspect, somebody can attack your AIML system at the time of training. So whenever you are building your systems, somebody will attack you. And the second time is at the time of inferencing. Okay, when a model is already trained, they can learn how the model is trained, they can play with the query, and they will fool your system. So attack can be made at two places. So this is a typical pipeline. So you have a training data, you feed it to your machine learning algorithm, and here you have a training data and you are actually training the model. So the process in which you have a training data and you are training a model, people can hack here, people can create security threats, people can alter your training data, people can add some noise intelligently in your training data, and then they will compromise your model. Or you have a complete trained model ready, and while making the prediction, they will play with some of their parameters in order to create the false predictions coming out. So at a time wise, every attack, you will see that whether it's a training time attack or it's a prediction time attack. And in terms of attack capabilities, and this is very important, and as I said, if you understand clearly how people attack AI system, then you have a chance to create defenses around it. So first kind of an attack is called as a white box attack. So what do you mean by white box attack? So attackers knows what is the distribution of the training data. Attacker knows what is the model architecture, and also attacker is very much aware about what was the optimization function used, what was the weights of your model, and what is the bias of this model. Okay, so white box attack, as a name suggests, your attacker is somebody, you can call it as an insider attack, who knows everything about your model, right? He's pretty much aware of what was the training data, what was an architecture, so everything is known. So looks like typical, like you know everything, and then you are hacking the system. It's called as a white box attacks. And the next, that is very important, it's called as a black box attack. And this is how you can think that you should be very careful about, because you will see that, hey, if I keep my model secret, if I keep my training data secret, if everything is kept secret, how can somebody attack my system, right? People still do that, and that's why these kind of an attacks are typically very practical kind of an attacks called as black box attacks. So attacker doesn't know anything about ML system. Okay, so everything is secure, but eventually you host your model someone where somebody is using those models, right? So there is an attack called hard level attack. When you query your machine learning model, An attacker knows only the predicted label for that classifier. Okay, so you pass an image and you got the label of that image, whether it's a cat or dog. Okay, that's it. You have only access to this much information. Then when you pass an input, you get an output. So that is called as a hard label classifier, black box attacks. And second is called as a confidence. So apart from the label, you also know that you know how confident your model is. That's it. And that's why these black box attacks are very interesting to learn, and we will be focusing more on that, because these are the things are these are the things where you need to put a lot of attention. We don't know anything about ML system. What I know is just a label, and maybe in some cases I'll know the confidences, right? So there are some gray box attacks, like you don't know your models. Attacker knows model details but do not know the underlying data. For example, you know that, hey, this model is using a ResNet for training this classification, but you know the model details, but you don't know what was the training data for it. Or in some cases, you know what was the training data for this model, but you are not completely aware of what kind of a machine learning model is used. But still, what data is used for training is important for me to hack the model, because I know what is the training distribution like. So in white box, everything is known. In black box, nothing is available. In gray box, you know either model, or you know either what the data is all about. And there is no box attacks, and this is very interesting. No box attacks means an attacker attacks on a surrogate model. So what attacker does is, hey, this is your model and I don't know anything about it, so let me create my own model. And as this is created by me, I know everything about this model, and then I'll hack this model, hoping that similar hack will work on your model. So these kind of models are called as a no box attacks. Okay, so we will see one by one. So I'll just quickly revise. Based on how much attacker knows, the attacking capabilities are classified as white box, black box, gray box, and no box. Right? White box, everything is known. Black box, nothing is known. Gray box, at least model or data is known. And no box, as nothing is known, we will have a surrogate model and we'll attack the surrogate model. Okay, let's think that. So now we will go a little bit deep into the understanding of how these machine learning attacks are actually made. Okay, now look at these notations. A training data is will be represented by x comma y, and I'm just, for sake of simplicity, I'm talking about supervised models. So x is my input and y is my output. The learn parameters, that is the model parameters, are called as a theta. The test input is a small x, and y cap is my prediction. So y cap is a prediction, hoping that y is the actual prediction, but this y cap will be close to y in reality. And if y cap is close to y, I'll say that the model prediction is correct, right? When everything is secure, you will see that this all is represented by an orange color. Okay, so orange means my training data is secured, my learned parameters are secured, my test input is not corrupted, so my model prediction is always correct. So this is how a typical secure pipeline that you feel at a very simplistic level. And now we will discuss that how people actually go and attack these systems, right? So let's discuss our first attack. And this attack is called as a membership inference attack. Membership inference attack means the goal of an attacker is to identify what is the training data, right? So in a CIA principle, confidentiality of this model, somebody is trying to break the confidentiality of this model, and someone is interested to understand that what was the training data. Now, what was the training data means, given a test example. So imagine somebody has created a model in healthcare and that model is deployed somewhere. Now, attacker wants to know that when I query that model with a new input, can I make a guess? Can I make an intelligent guess whether this particular sample was a part of a training data of that model or not? Please try to understand this. Membership inference attack means The attacker wants to know that whether given a sample is in the training data or not in the training data. And you can see that why somebody would be interested. See, this is very serious when you are working with healthcare data, right? So insurance and companies. So if there is a cancer predictor model, right? So if there is a cancer predicted model, finding the targeted patients is very important stuff. So people put a lot of money to identify that, hey, this could be my potential patient, so that I can prescribe these drugs. So within that model, whether this model is trained on a particular patient or not, it is very important. And if somebody broke those systems, you will lose the privacy, and you will get all the understanding of whose data was consumed in order to train this data. Okay, so how it is? So this is your training data, and these are your learned parameters. And this is a data scientist who created this model. This was not exposed, and this is an attacker. And imagine a complete black box situation, that there is a line here, and this attacker is not aware what is the training data. Attacker is not aware what are the training parameters, but still attacker will attack and will find out what are the X and Y's. And very important, X are the features of that person, right? So this is called as a compromising the privacy of the training data. And we will discuss one of the nice publications, right? So there is a paper here called Membership Inferences Attacks Against Machine Learning Models. And this is the snapshot of the same paper that is taken. You can take a note of this paper, and you can download this paper. And if you see that, what are the important aspects discusses? A complete black box access to the target model. So when you say black box access, you only know that what is an outcome and what is the probability of an outcome. Now what they're saying is, given the data point, attacker can predict if it is a part of a training data of a target model or not. So confidentiality of AIML model is broken. Given a sample, they will say that we can predict with a confidence that if it is a part of a training data or not. Okay. And very interestingly, you will see that a lot of machine learning models are hosted as a services, right? So machine models created on machine learning, machine learning as a service platforms can leak a lot of information about their training data set. So that's the statement that you are making. If you are using some platform to host your models to train your systems, they can leak a lot of information about this model. Now, what is the smart way that they followed in this particular paper in order to generate this membership inferences attacks? Let's have a look at this. So what they created is, I'll spend some time on this so that you can save time while reading this paper. So what they created is, they created multiple shadow models. So this is like a shadow model 1, shadow model 2, shadow model 3, shadow model K. So these are the models that they create in-house for their own. And they created their own shadow training data as well. Okay. The goal is to predict whether the given sample is there in my targeted model or not. So this is a shadow training data. And obviously a training data is split into training and testing. So what they did is, they created a shadow training data split into training and testing. They trained a shadow model on the trained data, and they took inference on the test data. Okay. Now, what is given that when the samples from this training data are passed to this shadow model, they got a prediction. Okay. And what was the prediction? So what was the recorded? They recorded the class level. So what was the prediction? You actually got the training instances. And very importantly is, they also noted down whether it was in the part of the training data or it was out of the part of the training data, right? Now, understand that they were knowing what is the training data and what is the test data, right? So inferences of all the data, what was there in the training data, were called it as an in, and inferences taken against all the test data are called as an out. Okay, so they created a supervised learning model, something like this, saying that, hey, this is my input features. What was the outcome? What was the outcome? So let's say this is X, Z. This was an output, and they created a target column Y, saying 1 if it is present and 0 if it is not present. 1 if it is present and 0 it is not present. Are you getting it? So they created their models like that. So they created 1 model, 2 model, 3 model, like K different models are created. Again, I repeat, model is trained on this part of the data and then tested on this data, and their outcomes, the predictions were also recorded. Their predictions are also recorded here along with the features, and the target column is created saying that whether it's a part of a training data or it was not a part of a training data, whether it was a part of a training data or whether it's not a part of a training data. So
Bhushan,
far,
Shyam here.
yeah.
Can I interrupt you for a quick question?
Yeah, please.
So here,
Yeah.
you're trying to define whether the output was part of the training of the shadow set, but you don't really know whether this was part of the actual model, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm coming to. So I'm not yet finished yet. So the beauty of this attack is yet to come. I'm just creating a background, how the attack model is trained. I'll come to that. Okay. So far what I'm saying is a synthetic data is created in this fashion. Now I'm just focused on here. Your prediction is also a part of a training here. And the target is a synthetically created column. If that was a part of your, so imagine there is a sample here in this data and whose outcome is 1 and his outcome is also 1. Okay. So you took one sample from here, you pass it from this model, it will produce outcome as a 1 with say probability as 0.98, right? And then there was a sample here, you pass through it, you predicted it as a 1 but with a probability of 0.7, right? But finally it was predicted as a 1, and you know all the features of those also. Are you getting my point? And the target column for this, yes, this was a part of my training data, and here I'm saying this was not the part of my training data. So far so good. So this is how the features are created. Now please understand that why this attack works. And this is the slide where they say that, please focus on this line. Attack exploits observation that ML models often behave differently on the data that they were trained versus the data they see for the first time. Now, that's why this type of a settings will come to know that. See, this was the sample where your model predicted with a high confidence, say 0.9, even though the features are pretty similar. Okay, because this sample was in your training data set, and that sample your model has seen before. So your model is very confident while making a decision, hey, 0.9% probability that this is 1. But a similar feature with a minute difference, your model predicted 1, but in this case, the confidence is not so high, right? So there is a fact, what he's saying that typical AI model behavior is like that. And if you go to the deep learning kind of an application, you will feel that if the model has tendency to memorize some of the things, right? So what they're saying that attacker exploits an observation that your machine learning model behave differently on the data that they are trained on versus the data that they are seeing for the first time. So just give an example of a vision model. Suppose it's a dog versus cat of a model. And if you create 100 images of the dog, 1,000 images of dogs and 1,000 images of cat, if you train a model, okay, and on this trained model, if you take any sample from this training data set, right, it will make a prediction with some confidence. But the way your model is confident when a sample is from this 1,000 samples and altogether a different dog, not from this data set, a little bit outsider, right? And when you pass it, it will still call it as a dog, but there would be some difference in terms of confidence. And now you can compare that. What are the difference in the features of this dog and a dog from this? A very close features, right? So what these attackers have exploited is they are exploited the observation that your machine learning models behave differently on the data that they have seen in the past and on the data that they are looking for the first time. And that's why they created a lot of shadow models before and deliberately created a supervised learning problem saying that in or out, in or out, in or out. So let me actually train the model. Let me focus another machine learning model to find out where these predictions are changing, how the behavior is changing for a data which the model has seen before and not the seen before. So I'm hoping that the attacker model, so this is the thing. So how it is saying that this is a target model which I want to attack. A data record will go here and it will also go to the attacker. From target model, you get the predictions and you know already the labels. And then this model will predict 1 or 0, that is present or not in the present. That's the beauty of this stuff. I would request you to go through the paper again because of time limitation. I cannot go deep, but I hope you got the intuition that what was the thought process. The key is this: your model behaves differently on the samples that you have seen in the past and the new samples directly. Before I move, somebody asked a question. I would still like to stop here. Is that clear, sir?
Yes, Bhushan, thank you. I've understood the concept.
Yeah, thank you so much. So this is how, this kind of an attacks, this is a sample example that I shared, that how membership attacks are created and people can figure out that what is the training data used in this. Okay. Now let me explain you, one more type of an attack. And this attack is called as a training set poisoning attack. And this is very, very interesting to understand. And, have you heard about a lot of online learning systems, online feedback system? Like people, now in the next section, Anibha will talk about, reproducible AI and CI/CD and continuous training kind of pipelines that we use in an industry for deployment of machine learning models. Because you know that it's machine learning is not a process that you train your model once and it will start giving you right predictions forever, right? It won't happen because data is changing and there is a need to retrain your AI ML models, right? Now, people have put a pipelines, some automated stuff, so that whenever data changes, whenever your accuracy is trying to go low, people train the model again, so that, it is in line with what is happening in the real world. So attackers can understand that, hey, this is an automated ML pipeline, and after some times, this is getting refreshed or retrained. So people can insert some poison into your training data, and this is called as a training data poisoning. So you as a data scientist, what you're saying is you have put a pipeline saying that I will take a new training data automatically and I'll retrain my model. Okay. But if an attacker get access to a data on which you are training your model, and if attacker adds poison to this data, your system will be collapsed, right? So let's understand that. What do you mean by training set poisoning? Okay, so adversary is able to inject a bad data into your training set. Adding a bad data into training set will shift the boundary of your machine learning models. And people have seen that attacker adds so much bad data that eventually your model becomes useless also. Like 3% of training data poisoning can lead to an 11% accuracy drop. So these are some of the facts that I'm talking about. So one someone can do is like, it will add some poison into your training data. It will shift the boundary as per his requirement, or somebody will add so much poison in your data so that eventually your model will collapse. But at least if your model is collapsed, you will understand that somebody has attacked on your AI ML systems. And the bad part is the backdoor attacks. So backdoor attacks is so sophisticatedly added poison in your data that owner will not aware that the training model is being attacked. Now, there are some very interesting examples, and especially on recommendation systems, right? So, if you have a recommendation system and it is not clear about poisoning attacks, people can, uh, falsely query your recommendation system, and they can deliberately bring demand to some other products, right? Like, I'm just giving an example. If there is an online shopping site and there are some recommendations going, you can create an attack and deliberately clicking on some of the products again and again and again and again and again. And you can think that, hey, now if the system get refreshed and hey, in last couple of days, these products have seen by people a lot, right? And if system just gets retrain on that, next time whomsoever is looking that website, everybody starts seeing that you may like this product, right? So you have to take care about the poisoning attacks on your systems. So I'll go in a very simplistic manner. I hope everybody is aware of support vector machine. So support here is a typical SVM classifier that you are seeing. And you know that support vector machine is also called as a large margin classifier. So not any other boundary is chosen, but a boundary which has a larger margin between these support points. So this is a very nicely trained support vector machine, a large margin classifier. Now what will happen is someone will add a noise or somebody will add a poison in your training data. So this was an existing training data before, and this sample is now moved here. The moment the sample is now moved here, you will see that in order to maintain the large margin, this margin is no more true. What you have done is now your margin is like this, right? So initially an example which was here, which was called as a red, which is here now, which may call it as a blue, right? So people can actually change the classification boundary of your model by putting deliberately some of the training data here in order to play with the boundary. Now, do you want somebody else to actually alter your boundaries deliberately like this? If not, you have to prevent this kind of an attacks, right? Your classification boundary is being changed by somebody else just by playing with your training data or adding some additional points into your training data. That is called as a poisoning attacks on your systems, right? So what are the possible defenses for the poisoning attacks? So here is I'm showing you some of the very interesting examples. So before attack, this was your classification boundary. The the blue samples were the positive samples, and the red samples are negative samples. And you can see there is a very nice decision classification boundary. And this is the direction of theta that you can mention. Now, an attacker deliberately put some data here. Now, this is the distribution of the poison. So somebody added poison in your training data. And because of this, you'll see that the original boundary, which was like this, which is now turned like this because of these samples, right? So a very simplistic manner for this is you can apply some sanitization to this. So you know the underlying distribution of your training data. When somebody else adds that, before training your model, before refreshing your model, you should see what is an underlying distribution again. And then you can actually discard these outliers and then train your model so that this will be exactly similar to what you have, right? So a simplest defense for poisoning attack is an outlier detection. So have another algorithm in place, and before you trigger your retrain pipeline, make sure that there are no outliers in your training data. And if there are outliers, you sanitize them and train your model so that you will see that there is no shift in the classification boundary. So this way you can preserve the poisoning attacks. Now, this is another nice paper which talks about, casting out the demands, the sanitizing the training data after anomaly. So a very nice defense, very nice defense proposed in order to get rid of the poisoning attacks. So here it is saying that you can train the classifier and non-overlapping epochs of your training data. So what you can do is if this entire is your training data, you can create small sets of your training data. Okay. and then you create micro models on this small part. So let them overfit on this data. Okay, so you create those micro models on the small part of this training data, and then evaluate each model on entire training data. So in a simple manner is you train on this part, but you test it on entire data. You train on this part and then you test on entire data, and then take a majority voting of micro training set. So what will happen is, how you can prevent is, because you are splitting your training data in a small part, if there is some poisoning happening here, your all other models will behave exactly they were behaving before, but only this model will start producing some weird outputs. Okay, and as you are taking majority voting on the micro models, the effect of this get rid. So by this way, you can get rid of the poisoning attacks on your system. In a simple way, that this is the distribution of your data. You train your models on different part of the data. Okay, and if there is some poisoning in particular area, you can easily figure out, because that micro model will only behave weirdly compared to all other micro models that you have. So this is another defense that somebody has um, given in order to get rid of the poisoning attacks on your systems, right? And there are some very interesting other defense also, and I really liked it. They are pretty straightforward, but and that's what I'm saying. Like I'm telling you some of the defenses, and this is up to you to break these defenses. And then when you break those defenses, wide open opportunities for you to come up with your own defenses, right? So the first defense was you can have an outlier detection. The second defense was you can create micro models. And this is another very interesting defense, is reject on negative impact. I really liked it. This is pretty straightforward. So if the collected input is poisonous, it will destroy your model accuracy on the golden data set. So what you can do is, you can say that, hey, this is my golden data set, which nobody knows. This was my base model B1. When I train my base model B1 on an existing training data set, I know that on my golden data, it is 85% accurate. Now you got a new training data, somebody added poison into it. You train a new model, say B2, and if you want to make sure that whether this is a poisonous data or not, what you can do is you can take inference of this B2 on golden data. And if this accuracy destroys, it goes down directly to 60%, you'll understand that there is a poisoning in my training data. Very simplistic. I liked it. So this approach is called as a reject on negative impact. If there is a negative impact, I will just throw it away. Okay. There is another very simplistic defense for this kind of an attack. It's called a strip attack. What they say is, you intentionally perturb the input data. And if output variance does not change, then it's poison. What they say is, if this is my training data, okay, and I want to make a call whether this data is poisonous or not poisonous, right? So what you will do is, you take this data and you train your model, okay, and training and test accuracies. Now what you do is, in this data, you deliberately do some perturbations, small changes into some columns and some values of this data set. You deliberately make some changes. Now the changes that you are making, if it is not having impact, then you'll say that, hey, there is some bad randomness added into my data, because even after perturbations, if there is no variance coming out, my output is not changing, means this data is poisonous. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? This is called as a another defense. Like, I took a data, I deliberately did some perturbations. Now after doing this perturbation, I see that there is no change in my output variance, means this data is poisonous, right? So these are so for poisoning attacks, we discussed 4 defenses: outlier defense, micro models, reject on negative impact, and strips, right? With that, I think let's move to some other exciting attacks, right? So now this is an area of interest, and everybody is excited to see the adversarial attacks, right? All the examples in the start of this training data set, I shown you some very interesting examples. most of them lie in this category of attacks called adversarial attack. So what do you mean by adversarial space, and how these attacks come, right? So theoretically, nobody knows this kind of a distribution. So a big circle that you're seeing is a theoretical distribution space, right? But obviously, when we are trying to create our machine learning models, we will not be able to take a right distribution. So whatever with our understanding, we take a training data distribution, right? And how many of you have seen that, hey, I train my model, it behaves amazingly, but when you test it with a real life examples, it breaks like anything, and then what is your explanation for that? You said, hey, this test sample is not from the same distribution. The properties of the data are different, so my model is not expected to give a right output because this is out of the distribution data. So underline, what if you learn machine learning very basic, what we do is we take an entire data and we split it into training and testing. So what is the underlying assumption? The distribution is same. Now I'm just splitting a data into 70-30, assuming that the underlying properties of these data in this 70% and 30% are constant. And that's why when you train on this 70%, when you test on this 30%, you say that, hey, this is really good. Because your assumption is this is your training data distribution, and then you split it into 70-30. This is your 70% and this is your 30%. Yes or no? And then your model behaves amazingly well because that underlying distribution of data is constant. Okay. Now what adversaries do? What do you mean by adversarial attacks? Is they actually find a space, a test data sample space, a data distribution, which is not the part of your training data distribution. Here is a chance to tweak a little bit and to fool your machine learning models, right? Now I'll show you how they can be done. So attackers can exploit pockets of adversarial space to fool your machine learning. So all the attacks, they find this, hey, your training training algorithm is not aware of this distribution of a data. For example, you are designing cat versus dog model. You took 1,000 variety of cats and 1,000 varieties of dogs. And what I know is, hey, this is also a cat. And this looks something like this, which you have not seen. It has some specific characteristics. So humans will see this as a cat, but your model will call it as a dog. So we explore such examples from this space. Okay, I'll make it very simple. Just understand that all these adversarial examples are, they take an advantage of a space which is out of your training data distribution. Okay, what is this? So if you want to create an adversarial attack, these are the typical 3 characteristics that are followed. One is small perturbations, right? So you make very small changes, add amount of a noise, a very small perturbation that you will do to your input data, so that for human beings, you will not even able to see the difference, but your model will fail to predict it correctly. Second is high confidence, easy to attain high confidence for incorrect. So if it is an adversarial attack, by making small changes in your input. So if I come back again to this, see this, I will just, so this is an example which you are calling it as a cat. I will add some noise. So this will go from here to here. So it looks still like a cat, but your model will predict it something different, right? So this says that it should produce high confidence to incorrect class by adding small perturbation. And a very beautiful characteristics of adversarial attack is transferability. And this is very important. So if you create an adversarial attack example on model 1, it is high chance that a same adversarial sample can attack other models also. Have you heard the concept of transfer learning? So transfer learning, you take an advantage of a model being trained on some else data set and just fine tuning on it, and you use for your purpose. In the same concept, the adversarial attack is a transferable. So if you broke one architecture, high chance that it will break other models as well, right? So remember, small perturbations, high confidence, and transferability. These are the top three characteristics of a very good attack on your neural network systems. Now, let me explain you with this example. And this is one of the most popular adversarial attack, was published by uh, Ian Godfellow, I think, in 2014. Okay. So what they're saying is, this is my input image. When you pass this input image to your neural network, it will say that this is a fish. So probability of fish is 0.9 and the probability of flat is 0.1. Now what I'll do is, I will add some noise. So this is completely a noise. Now I'll add some noise to this image and I'll create a noisy image. Now this is a noisy image. For humans, you will not able to figure out this pixel level changes that are done into this image. So for humans, this will still as a fish, very minimal changes, small perturbation. But this small perturbation will cause a huge confidence difference in your neural network. Now, this image is called as a cat by your network. Okay. Now the whole question is, where is the math behind all this technique? How to create these perturbations? How to create this perturbation? Again, I am telling you, we are discussing about how to create an attacks. And if you clearly understand how these attacks are created, then obviously you will be able to create a defense against these attacks, right? So you can see this mathematical term and I'll explain you what happens in this. And then I'll share some notebooks by which you can create your own attacks sitting at your home as well, right? So what I'm trying to do is, this is an image. This is a very small multiplier, making sure that the perturbations are small. And then you have to come up with some kind of an intelligent noise. When get added to this image, it will change its class level, right? So minimally altering the inputs to machine learning models can lead to a Mills classification. Adversarial examples are the pieces of the data deliberately engineered to trick the model. So this is a deliberately engineered noise. Okay. So it's not that I'm playing with addition something and then the model is changing, right? Okay. So this is an example as we discussed. I was trying to explain in that model. So the dark black is the actual machine learning classification boundary. This is a trained model. This is a sample which is lying on this body. So red are the zeros, one negative samples. This is a sample which is sitting on the boundary. I'll identify that sample. I'll make some changes to it so that it will cross the border like this. So ideally, these two samples are very close, but they are crossing the boundary. Now this is called as a class 1, right? Similarly, this is a class 1 sample. I'll find some samples on the boundary. By making minimal changes, I'll make them to cross the boundary so that they will be incorrectly classified or something else. How to do that? That engineering behind that, let me explain you now. So again, adversarial attacks are white box attacks and black box attacks. So a first white box attacks that we will discuss is X is your input plus DL by DX, the gradient, the change of loss with respect to an input image. This is a type, and this was, as I said, Ian Godfellow, published in 2014 about this attacks, and I'll talk. The second is iterative optimization attacks, and there are some very interesting black box attacks also, where we will be talking about. I hope by now you understand what do you mean by black box attacks and white box attacks. In white box attacks, I'm aware of a network, I'm aware of your parameters, I'm aware of what is your training data, and then I'll break it. In the black box attack, I don't know anything about your model, but still I'll fool your model, right? Again, these are very popular, but you need to understand the theory from this first. Okay, so let's understand what I'm talking about, the white box attacks. So I know the training data, I know the training parameters. So this is a data scientist, this is an attacker. If the attacker knows what was the training data, if attacker knows what was the parameters, then he can create an input such a way that it will create a false looking output for your models, right? How they do it. Now, this is the most important slide of this discussion, and I'll go a bit slow just to make sure that everybody understands the concept, right? How do you train your neural network? You pass an input, then you have a forward pass. Okay. At the end of the first forward pass, you have a prediction of your model, say y cap. Then you compare that prediction with the ground truth, right? So y cap is your prediction, and then you compare it with actual y. Okay. If you find that y cap and y has a huge difference, then you actually take a square. That is your square loss, right? And you want to minimize this loss, right? In order to minimize this loss, what is the rule that you have used? Do you remember gradient descent algorithm? Gradient descent, W new is equal to W old minus alpha times dj by dw. What is this dj by dw? Partial differentiation of a noise with respect to weight. This is the complete philosophy of training deep learning network. What you do, you change the weights, okay, in order to minimize the loss. Are you with me? What you want to minimize? dj by dw. This term you want to minimize, dj by dw. So whole goal of training machine learning system is you do not disturb the input. The only things which are changing over the every iteration is a weight w, and where you keep eye on loss. You say that I want to minimize the loss, so that let me change my weights. And you don't change those weights now randomly. You change those weights with the formula of a gradient descent. W new is equal to W old minus alpha times dj by dw. Dj by dw, dabba j by dabba w. This term is a effect of a weight. How much changes I do into the weight so that my noise will change. Are you with me? Now, here what you are trying to do is, you are trying is, let me take gradient of the loss with respect to input. I know my network is trained. Yes or no? Now what I'm saying is, for this nicely looking fish image, my y prediction and y are same. I know the y prediction and y are very close. So noise is very small. Now the problem formulation has changed in this fashion, saying that, hey, how should I change? How should I change my x so that I will be able to increase the noise? In this case, you want to fool the network. So you want to increase the noise. So in order to increase the noise, where should I make changes into my input image? And that's why you take gradient of loss with respect to x. Now what this diagram is saying that, hey, if you want to increase the noise, are you seeing those red pixels? These are the bad pixels. If you increase the intensities of these red pixels, the noise will increase. Are you with me? So you actually find that directed noise, and what you do is you take this dl by dx and all those red. So here is the intensity changes. You deliberately play in the area where there is an effect, where the loss will increase. And so I'm saying that in order to support this image as a fish, these are the good pixel areas. So these are the areas which are supporting that this is a fish, this is a fish, this is strong towards fish. And these are the negative terms. So what you do is you deliberately boost this area and deliberately, go down to this good area of pixel, so that, your noise increases. And then initially it was calling it as a fish, but now it will call something else. This kind of an attack, it's called as a dl by dx attack. So you iteratively find what are the best possible changes I do into this pixel in order to increase my loss. And increasing the loss means you are making false predictions, right? So there is a very nice, the first, the paper that was published in 2014, it's called as a fast gradient sign method. It is called as FGSM. FGSM. Okay, it's very interesting to understand. Okay, first what you need to do is you need to find a loss term. That too you do every time when you train your neural network. So this is a loss. X is my input, Y is my label, and theta is my model parameters. So it's a mathematical representation of a loss, and theta is a parameters. Then what you took, you take a gradient of the cost function. You take a gradient of the cost function, and then you apply sign to it. Why you apply sign to it? Because this gradient could be high, and you, by taking a sign of it, you will cap it between 0 and 1. So you take a sign of that, and then you add an epsilon term to it. This epsilon is a scale down multiplier. See, when you make an attack, the attack should be a small perturbation, right? If that is easily understood by human, that will not be called attack, right? Because if your attacked image is already looking like a cat, your network will call it as a cat. But beauty is, for human beings, it is looking as a fish, but your model is calling it as a cat. So that's why this is called as a scale down multiplier. And this is your final expression. So what does this final expression look like? X compromise is original image plus this term. So this is an intelligent term. Added to this will change the class of X. And this will change for every network based on what is the loss and what are the train parameters that you have done. Okay, I'll show you how easily this can be done by using TensorFlow on MNIST dataset. So I have a sample data with me. Just give me a minute. Okay, so we do not have time to run this notebook one by one, but I'll quickly go through it. So this is TensorFlow 2.0, and there are some beautiful functions to calculate gradients very easily. Hope you are able to see my screen. So these are the typical imports, and I'm taking the MNIST load data. I hope everybody is aware of MNIST dataset. It's a handwritten digit classification problem, and you have a digits from 0 to 9, and you need to predict given digit whether it's a right or not, right? So I'm taking the MNIST.load data, and then I'm normalizing it, and then I'm dividing into training and test data. And once my data is ready, I'm building a typical convolutional neural network. So I'm creating model as a sequential. This is 2D convolution. Then after multiple convolution blocks, I will have a max pooling. Then there is a dropout layer. Then I flatten, and then this is my dense network. And eventually, you will see that I have a dense layer with number of classes and activation as a softmax. It's a multi-class classification problem. And then I'll say compile the model with Adam Optimizer with a loss of MSE and accuracy, right? So I'll train this model. It will take some time, but you will see that it has a very decent level of accuracy. You can see that the validation accuracy is 97%, which is very good. And my trend test splits, if you see that, those trend test splits are pretty high numbers. Like I have almost like 60,000 images in my test samples, right? So now let's talk about the creation of the adversarial path, right? Now understand that there is a function called adversarial pattern, and I'm giving an image and the correct label of that because I want to find the noise also. And look at this. I'm saying, so in TensorFlow 2.0, there is a function called gradient tep, and you can actually watch for an image because you want to play with the image and you want to calculate the gradient of loss with respect to image, right? So in order to call the loss, you need to know that what is the actual label. So you use model and you create this prediction. Label is a ground truth and prediction is what your model is giving. So when you calculate it, you have a loss function. Then you calculate a gradient of loss. So this is exactly in line what the steps that we are taking. We first take a loss, then we take a gradient of this loss, right? Come to this notebook. What we are doing is we took a gradient, okay? We took a gradient of loss with respect to input, that is your image. And then we are taking a sign of it. So then I'm taking TF of sign of this gradient, and I'm returning this sign gradient back, right? So what I do is eventually at the time of testing, I take one image I pass it to this adversarial pattern and I create perturbations. So this perturbation means this one, sign of the gradient, and then I'll multiply with a small number called epsilon. So this adversarial image is my original image plus some perturbations into 0.1. Again, I'm calling it as a some perturbation because I don't know exactly where I want to take it. I'll just add a noise in order to fool a neural network, right? And so I added this, I created this adversarial example. Now look at this prediction. So I take an image, I'm saying that model.predict image, and then saying that I am saying that model.predict adversarial. So for a given image, my network is calling it as a 5, but for adversarial sample, my network is calling it as a 3. Now look at this image. This image looks like 5 to me, handwritten 5, and the model original image, it was calling it as a 5, but by adding small perturbation, now it is calling it as a 3. So this way, a very quick demonstration of how to create this attack I have just shown you, right? So this attack is called as a fast gradient signed method. This is not the only method, but this is the most simplest method, and you can quickly create attacks on your systems, right? And this is how this is an image, like original image taken from from the paper. This is an image of a panda which has a confidence of 57. This is the perturbation and epsilon, and this is the sign of the gradient of the loss with respect to an image. So this noise is get added to this. Now this is an output image of an panda which looks exactly like a panda, but your network is calling it as a gibbon, right? So this is how this attack is created. Now somebody will ask you why this it's calling it as a gibbon. Can I ask it to call something else that I like? So then you can actually change it to the targeted attacks, right? So this is how you can change the philosophy, saying that, hey, this is my input image. Okay, I know the loss function. I know the loss function of this. But what I want is, I want this particular image to be called as a bookcase. Now, this is a targeted attack. The goal is not to just change this image from man to something else. You want this particular image to be called as a bookcase. So in order, now this is a targeted attack, right? So for that particular class, you will calculate a class. You will calculate the loss. Like for that particular cross entropy, you'll say that, hey, this is an image. Initially, the loss is really small for this class. What you will do is, now you come back and you will create a noise in such a way that this image will get called as a bookcase. So you will keep on iterating till the time enough noise is added into it so that this will start calling it as a bookcase, right? So the first one was not a targeted, and this one is just a targeted attack. And I'll just quickly show you, and we have a time limitation, so I may not be able to run this notebook in front of you, but you can definitely take um, you can definitely take note and you can run it on it. So there is a very nice notebook series by Magnus Eric, and from his tutorial there is a nice example he has given. So I have reproduced the same notebook. You can get that from his GitHub page. So he has given this image, and nicely a code is given, and here you can quickly see that this is an image of a macaw, a species of a parrot, and you can actually, this macaw is called as a 97%, but this is an attacked image which looks exactly same as a macaw, but your model is calling it as a bookcase, and this is an applied noise to it, right? So the philosophy is exactly similar to this, but what you do is, here you want is, in this particular case, you want the noise to be more, so you don't care in which class you will go, but in the targeted class you have a target saying that this image should get called something like this, and that's why you actually keep on iterating. So this is the targeted attack, is bit slower method, but it gives you the kind of a targeted attack that you want. Okay, and again, this is called as an adversarial patch, and you can create something like this. And I have already discussed that this patch you can keep anywhere, and and you can start calling it. If time permits, I can show you this notebook, and you can create this kind of a patch for any class in ImageNet. And once you have this patch ready, you can put it in any image, and it will start calling it, saying that this is that kind of a patch. Okay. Um, I'll go a little bit fast now because we have a time constraint. So let me tell you about. So if you see this, all the methods that I've discussed in this session, you have access to this loss function. Okay, you have access to this loss function. You know what are the trained weights. Okay, you know the model. You know the data distribution. So all these attacks, these are the white box attacks, and that's why you could calculate actually the gradient and all that stuff, right? Because you know what was the model parameter and what was the training data distribution. But how can you do it with a black box attack situation? You don't know anything about the network, right? So still, how can you do this? So this is a typical situation. The training data, the learned parameter, everything are kept towards, are kept safe by data scientists. Here is an attacker who has no access to anything, but still this attacker manages to broke manages to break these networks and fool the model predictions. Very interesting, and you should be very careful about it. So the first technique of creating black box attacks, okay, adversarial attacks, is this. Very nice and very simple. What they do is they created lot of test samples. They pass it. So imagine there are Google Vision, Amazon Vision, and there are a lot of uh, services, vision services, where you can upload an image and you will get an outcome, right? So if you pass this image as a image, you pass it, you'll say that this is a dog with particular confidence, right? So you don't know anything about those models. Those are completely black box models for you. You don't know the training data, you don't know the what parameter is, what model is used, but at least what you have access is when you query this model, you get the confidence and you get an answers, right? So what people do is they create huge training data, and by one they query this black box model, and they note what are the outcomes coming from this network. So now you have images, and you know the labels also, the right labels. Based on that, they create a substitute model. So this is a substitute model, also called as a surrogate model, which gets trained on this images and the outcomes of this black box models. Once you know that, it becomes a white box attacks for you, because for the surrogate model, you know the model architecture, you know the model parameters, you have an access to the data, and then you first attack the surrogate model. And as I said, the property of adversarial saga, if you could break the surrogate model, the same adversarial example will break the black box model, right? So this is the very simplistic philosophy by using a substitute black box model, right? I'll repeat again. You create a lot of training data, you pass it to the black box model, you note down the outcomes, and then you have a training data and outcomes. Based on that, you train another model, and then you consider this as a white box. Then you break that model, create an adversary example. That adversary example will also fool your black box model. That's an understanding. Okay. Now what will happen of this? There is an also concept of model theft. Okay, so you had a training data, you have a learning parameters, and everything is kept aside from you. But as I said, you can create a surrogate model, and once you have a surrogate model ready, this surrogate model is ready. You as good as you have an access to this model, because this model is trained on the exactly the outcome of this data. Means you are actually so why the model theft is so serious? Like, the big companies like Google, Amazon, and all this, they have put tremendous effort on creating these models, lot of training data and everything, right? But by passing few images, by sitting at home, you created your own model, right? So it's almost like a model theft. Tomorrow you can raise your own service saying that, hey, this is my vision service. Getting it? So all the what you have actually stolen is a learning parameter from this. And this is bad. And it's very hard to control. At least I don't know how can I prevent this model theft, right? The bad part of once you know the model theft, you know on the what data it is trained, and then you can have a theft model theft plus plus. You can actually have a membership inference attack also. I've told you how to create membership inference attacks, right? You know the model now, and you all those things, so you can actually predict which samples were present into this data. So this is all kind of an attacks that people can do once they have a surrogate model ready with them. Now, I think it's the right time to quickly discuss about some of the defenses. I'll go a little bit fast. So one of the defense is this. It is called as an adversarial training. And this is the most obvious thing. What people say is, during your training data, why don't you create adversarial samples? And then why don't you retrain your model to this so that this model would be robust for the adversarial attack? So this is one of the most common defense that most of these models that you see is adversarial training. So during the training only, you create all sort of perturbations because people have white box attacks. People create what kind of an adversarial examples. So this is the best thing that people have trained is, create an adversarial training samples from your training data set, create all those noisy examples, and all them you call it as a fish, and then you retrain and make sure that your model is foolproof, so that if somebody create an adversarial samples, your model will still call it as a fish, not as a cat. This is the most obvious difference called as adversarial training. Okay. Next is very interesting. What they have called is a pixel defense. Again, we do not have much time on this kind of an attack. What they're saying is, uh, you can create defense strategies that aims to perform purification of a generative transformation model. So what they're saying is, if this is a noisy image, you can pass it through this network called purification network, and this is an output. So all the perturbations of these images, they will be removed from this. So have you heard about the concept of autoencoders? Right? The concept of autoencoders is something like this. Yet, so you have an x, you have an x dash, and what you want is x dash minus x should be small, right? So you'll pass an input, but it will purify the image at an output. There would be a small differences. Got it? So this adversarial example, when you pass through this network, it is trained like that you will get a purified image out, and then this purified image you pass through your CNN. So this is your defense mechanism that you create. This is a paper called Pixel Defense. You can have a look at it. So this is another defense that people have proposed. One more defaults that people are saying, and it is difficult to do, is actually regularizing the gradient of the model. So people have learned that people exploit DL by DX of your model, and they play with these pixels in order to fool your models. So why don't you normalize your loss with respect to image and have the model lost in the regularized fashion, so that it's very difficult for people to create the noise samples of your input. And another thing is, I really liked it, is you can create a supervised classification model. So you create images and you create the adversarial samples of that images, create an adversarial samples, create an adversarial sample, and then design a binary classification. Okay. And say that let this classifier be classify whether this image are good images and these images are the adversarial images. So it's like a designing one more classifier. So your pipeline would look like this. This is an image that will pass through this network first, and this network will take a call whether saying that this is 1 or 0. If it is 1, then only you will pass it to ML. If it is 0, then you will call it, hey, this is a noise image or this is an attack. Okay, so you can create this class. The problem is, again, I'm saying that this is cat and mouse game. How many attacks you will consider at the time of training, right? So it could be a good defense, but this may not be a foolproof defense, because no matter what you do, people will find out some or other ways to actually fool your systems. But this could be another way of doing it. There is very nice attack, and I really liked it. One more defense. This defense is called as a detecting adversarial by measuring the uncertainty estimate. So what they do is, in a neural network, these are your neurons, and they are connected like this. And I hope you know the concept of dropout layer, right? So normally, dropout is used at the time of a training of your neural network in order to reduce the overfitting of your model, right? So people use dropout at the time of a training, right? But what they're saying is you can use dropout at the time of inference. So there would be a probability of those neurons, they would be hitting or not hitting at the inference time only. So what you can do is take a same image, and you can pass through this neural network multiple times with different dropout layers, right? And if the uncertainty is high, then you can and if the uncertainty is low, then you can say that, hey, this is a clear image. Because if there is a noise, perturbations in an image, you will see that during the dropout, the output will shoot, based on particular layer. So this is another way of detecting adversarial examples, right? So you may ask me, okay, Bhushan, you have shown multiple attacks to me, and you have shown multiple strategies for us. So what could be the next step for us? The next step for you do is, you have adversarial toolbox called ART, and this is came from IBM research. This is an open source Python toolbox which has lots of methods, lot of defenses. So you can test your systems with this. If you could break some of those attacks, there is a possibility for you to come up with your own defenses. So this could be a beautiful place to spend your time to understand what are the different attacks, and you can check your systems also if they are robust to the different attacks or not. So I think that's it about prevent attacking and preventing your deep learning models. I hope you liked it, and this is where we'll stop. Thank you.
So Dr. Shyam Sundar is saying it was a very nice session.
Thank you.
Good session. Thank you.
Hi Bhushan, I have one question. It's Reenal here. So first of all, it's a very great session. So yeah, my question is like the membership attack which you have talked about
Yeah.
for training data sets. So how we can prevent that actually? So the method which you have not tell about. So adversarial.
Right. And as I said, it's very difficult to come up with a foolproof solution to this, because see, whenever you are deploying your systems as deploying your systems as a service, you cannot prevent people to fire a query, right, and get an outcome coming back from it, right?
Right.
So if you see the attack that I discussed, people are creating shadow models and training on the top of that.
Right.
So frankly speaking, if you could prevent, it's very hard, right? At least the way in which they have created an attack, it's very difficult to prevent. So it's an ongoing work, at least for my knowledge. The kind of an attack exposing, see, it's really bad. When we were discussing about responsible AI stuff, I discussed about, it's you need to disclose everything about model, the transparency, the kind of data, but then that creates problems of the security. So it's very difficult. At least I am not aware of how can I prevent this kind of an attack. The moment people start creating surrogate models out of your outcomes, it's very difficult to prevent from there.
Okay, then we must say it's ongoing research work. So that's what
you can definitely. So there are attempts that people have created a defenses, but nobody claims that this is foolproof.
Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. So like this was an awesome session, like after learning this much of models and other stuff, right now this is shocking to me.
That's how we frame this course as a responsible AI, going beyond accuracy. So far we were only focused on getting best accurate models, right? But there is a life beyond accuracy that we need to get.
So this is totally different means the pipeline or something which we can focus on definitely. So not just on model. It's
Right. And you can take part in the many international conferences. So many conferences, they have their workshops and they release the data and they ask us to come up with proposed defenses. So it's a beautiful place where you'll see that for one particular attack, people come up with different strategies. And
okay.
and after like within 2-3 days, people crack your defenses.
Okay. Oh, so where that conference is?
I'll share all those details.
Okay. And can we get this PPT and the notebook which you have shared?
We will
Just
discuss. We can discuss this with organizers. Yeah.
okay. Thanks, Bhushan.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We have one more question from Prasanna. So he's asking that why we don't report confidence back? Will it help preventing attack?
Yeah, as I said, there are two ways in which people report the confidences. Yes, one way is that you can just report labels, right? But in many cases, people expect that in order to consume the service, just getting a label. So again, it's a black box game again, right? If you remember my interpretability lectures, I said that people will not accept if you just written saying that this person is having cancer, right? Unless and until you are not telling me how much are you confident about it, where are you looking at, why do you think so, I will not accept your service. So at one side, when I discuss about interpretability and explanations, that looked very good at that time. But the moment you start giving those things to end users, it starts creating the security problems also. Then I can hack the system. So not returning confidences may not be acceptable to the end users.
It's totally depend upon the business user is want the confidence or not.
Right.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Bhushan, for a very nice and informative talk. Thank you everyone for joining this session.